What's going on, Dolphins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I made a video for you guys earlier on a little bit more of a serious topic, talking about the NFL's plan for the upcoming season. Obviously, it related to the pandemic going on and so on and so forth. Got a little political, got a little bit heated and fiery in that conversation. But this one is going to be a little bit more light. We're going to be talking about who takes over the AFC East now that it looks like the Patriots are not going to be the presumptive, front runners in the division anymore. So let's go ahead and get right into it. This is an article by Gary Davenport on Bleacher Report. New England Patriots AFC East reign is done. Who will take the throne? For the past 2 decades, the New England Patriots have been the big bad bullies of the AFC East. The team's run of dominance is unprecedented in modern NFL history. Since the first Super Bowl win of the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era in 2001, there have been all of 2 seasons in which New England didn't win the division. The Pats have been division champions every year since 2009, a record run of 11 straight. It's been quite the Boston Tea Party, but it's over now. With Brady in Tampa, the Patriots are beginning a new era. Thanks to the decampment of the future Hall of Fame quarterback, several key losses on the defensive side of the ball, and a wide receiver core that remains among the weakest in the league, New England in all likelihood will not win the AFC East this year. Even if you believe Belichick can keep the Jarrett Stidham-led Pats, who are short on offensive weapons, and had linebackers Kyle Van Noy and J.B. Collins depart via free agency in the mix, the team can't be looked at as the prohibitive favorite it's been in just about every other year of the 21st century. The times they are a-changin', they say. The Patriots aren't the only team in the division that underwent big changes in the offseason. As a matter of fact, there probably isn't a division in the league in which all 4 squads look so different than they did in 2019, which is absolutely true, and it is going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I personally think as of right now, it's likely to be the Bills, Patriots, Jets, Dolphins. Although I do really like what I like what the Bills and the Jets both did in their in their drafts. But the Jets, and I personally am an Adam Gase fan, and I like what he did in his draft. And I think that he's going to help raise those Jets up the board. But look, on paper the Dolphins certainly could be more competitive than 4th in the division. But they have to put it together, and they have to hashtag prove it, as I've been saying. So, and one of those teams is about to step into a role that will feel very unfamiliar, foreign even, that of front runner. So here's who he starts with. Davenport starts with who he believes is going to be the long shot of the division. So the long shot. Let's get this out of the way. The front runners are not the Miami Dolphins. Not that long ago, the Dolphins looked like the front runners for the title of NFL's worst team. They weren't shy about beginning a ground-up rebuild last year under new head coach Brian Flores, which, let's pause for a second to note that yes, obviously they had to rebuild the team after they completely dismantled it, but that dismantling philosophy in coordination in conjunction with the fact that they did it to accumulate draft space or draft capital and cap space is the core philosophy of a tank. And so they tanked last year. Just to make sure that is clear for like the millionth time. Players such as offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil and safety Minkah Fitzpatrick were traded for draft picks. And the first half of the season was ugly. Miami was outscored 163-26 over the opening month and lost its first 7 games. The Dolphins, however, showed quite a bit more fight down the stretch. I certainly think the players did, and I will admit that I underestimated Ryan Fitzpatrick's, leadership and his ability to stay positive and stay pumped even though the situation is totally shit. So good for him and good for the players. Anyway, they were 4-4 in the second half and capped the surge with a Week 17 upset of the Patriots at Gillette Stadium, which cost New England a first-round playoff bye. And real quick, no matter how much the coaching staff was clearly part of the tank. One, because Brian Flores admit that he had a hand in every single transaction that they did, thereby helping to systematically dismantle the team. And 2, because there is an abundance of information to show that they did things to put the team in bad position to succeed, including if you wanna be as fair as possible, there was some malpractice on their part, because there were terrible calls when it came to timeouts and challenges. There were mysterious usage of player personnel. There were players that were mysteriously on the inactives list when they shouldn't be, when they were healthy, when there was no reason for them to be, and times when you actually could really use those players. They misused personnel on the field, play calling that they had, so many examples to show. But despite that, the players did help to, or certainly took it on their shoulders, in large part because they were playing for their own careers, to go out and win a few games, and especially get a nice win over the Patriots in Gillette Stadium. And no matter how much last season sucked, and no matter how much I dislike the philosophy and disagree with this organization and the power structure and the path that they've chosen, they can't take that away. Nobody can take that away. That win was awesome, just like the Miracle in Miami play. Nobody can ever take that away, no matter what. It's ingrained, it's in history, and it's wonderful no matter what. Let's see. Once the offseason started, Miami kicked its rebuild into overdrive. That is for sure. They were one of the most aggressive teams in free agency, handing big contracts to Van Noy, cornerback Byron Jones, and edge rusher Shaq Lawson, among others. Armed with 3 first-round draft picks, Miami added a potential franchise quarterback in Alabama's Tua Tagovailoa. Potential. He certainly has the potential, but there's a lot of bust potential with that as well. Tons of boom, tons of bust. We have to wait and see how it plays out, and that's in part how the Dolphins decide that the power structure, how they want to handle him and the rest of the team. Did they make the right decisions? Did they get the right players for the offensive line? And, blah, 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 blah. A tackle to protect him in USC's Austin Jackson, and more depth for the secondary in Auburn's Noah Igbinoghene. Real quick on that. So, all the reports that I've seen right now or recently have been that he is expected or projected to be a slot corner. So I don't know. I know not everybody feels the same, obviously, but I recall watching a K Flexen video, or multiple, in which he was like, you know what, in regard to the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade, he's like, you know what, if we drafted him to be a free safety and he goes to Pittsburgh and balls out at free safety, I'm going to be pissed because that was a bad trade. But their defense was, or a lot of people's defense was, oh, but he was a slot corner. And K Flexen was like, you don't draft slot corners in the first round, which I generally agree with, actually, especially considering we have one of the best in the league, Bobby McCain, certainly one of the highest paid slot corners there is. And cornerback to begin with at this point is one of the deepest positions, and you really could use a safety. Sure, you need to continue to beef up your secondary, but safety's where you should have put it, and could have got Xavier McKinney instead of this Noah kid. But they took a first-round cornerback, or a slot corner. So if that's true, so people like K Flexen should be super pissed, because then they decided, instead of taking the top-rated safety off the board, they decided to take a corner who looks like a carbon copy of Byron Jones, who they made one of the highest paid corners in the league in free agency this offseason, to pair with one of the other top 3 highest paid corners in the league, Xavier Howard. Okay, if people think shit like that makes sense and that's the way to build a winning team for sustained success, okay, I guess we'll see how it plays out. It's been quite the overhaul, and it could get the Dolphins into the mix for a playoff spot in this year's expanded postseason tournament. I doubt it, but we'll see. I would love for that to be the case. We'll see if that works out. They transformed this team into a division that, for the first time in 15 years, is truly in play. Brian Billick of NFL Network said via Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. It's true, the division is. Will the Miami Dolphins be able to seize it? Especially with the Bills looking like they are poised to take over. I doubt it, but we'll see. They could be very much a playoff caliber team. I doubt it. I really doubt it. But shock me. Prove it. Hashtag prove it. Though the Dolphins look markedly better on paper, they still face big questions. With Tagovailoa rehabbing a dislocated hip, it's unknown when he could take the reins. The skill position talent around whomever starts at quarterback is less than imposing. The offensive line was a bottom 5 unit in both run blocking and pass protection in 2019 per Football Outsiders, and the defensive ranked 30th in the league overall and dead last with just 23 sacks. The Dolphins may well be better, but they are still at least a year away from seriously contending. At least, I would say probably a few more. The dark horse is next. Will the real New York Jets please stand up? Like the Dolphins, the Jets were a roller coaster in 2019. The beginning of the season was a nightmare. Inside linebacker C.J. Mosley, who I believe Adam Gase is going to get rid of, who signed a massive free agent deal, suffered a groin injury in week 1 and played just one game the rest of the season. Quarterback Sam Darnold missed a month with mononucleosis. And at the halfway point, New York had one win. The second half of the season was another story. The Jets rallied in November and December, peeling off 6 wins in 8 games to finish 7-9. That offered at least some room for optimism about 2020, and the offseason has offered that much more. The Jets focused their attention in both free agency and the draft on fixing an offensive line that allowed 52 sacks in 2019, 4th most in the NFL. They signed tackle George Fant and center Connor McGovern, and used the 11th overall pick on 6'7", 364-pound tackle Mekhi Becton of Louisville. And I think all of those were solid moves. They didn't overspend for guys in free agency. They picked up solid players, and they picked up one of the best tackles in the draft in Mekhi Becton with their first-round pick. Good. With the biggest of needs filled, pundits including Manish Mehta of the New York Daily News have called this a playoffs or bust year for Gang Green. I don't know if it's that. I wouldn't think it's that big of a deal, because it's only the second year that they got there, and a lot of the things that they did last offseason, Adam Gase had no say in. He didn't have any say in Le'Veon Bell and C.J. Mosley being signed or any of that stuff, right? It wasn't his draft last year, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure he got there after the case, or you know, like right before it or right around it, something like that. So he was limited in that procedure, if at all. Feel free to correct me on that if I am wrong, though. But head coach Adam Gase said he won't put that sort of specific expectation on the team. They shouldn't. They just changed over their GM coach last year. Give them a few years, right? Unless they would have done some like atrocious thing, like decide to fucking tank and be fucking stupid. Now, but to be fair though, look, again, they can prove me wrong, and I do think that they deserve an opportunity to do so. I don't think it's going to work out by any means, but they do, and the Dolphins, that is, should have an opportunity to prove me wrong, and they certainly will get that. I'm not really worried about what expectations should be, Gase said. I know anything that we talk about in-house will stay in-house. We're focused on getting better in this offseason. The Jets have indeed gotten better, but they still have sizable holes. Focusing so many resources on the offensive line meant other areas went unaddressed. The Dolphins did that tenfold, though. They seemed to like double down on positions they didn't need to, like cornerback. They took a long snapper after getting rid of John Denny last year to take Tabor Pepper, and then just to get rid of him this year to draft one in the 6th round. Okay, whatever. Anyway, New York ranked 23rd in the league in sacks last year, and the pass rush is no better. It added a wide receiver in the 2nd round of the draft, Baylor's Denzel Mims, which I thought was a really good signing or pick, and signed Brashad Perryman in free agency. But Robbie Anderson's departure dealt a blow to an already shaky core. That's true, but those two guys could help. Denzel Mims looks like he's poised to have a good career. We'll have to wait and see. Look, you know, I've heard that Adam Gase wasn't totally sold on Sam Darnold, but it looks like he is at least trying to build up a team around him and give the kid an opportunity. I think they did maybe take a quarterback though in the draft, like later on or something too. But look, if you know, Adam Gase I believe will know, and in the next year or two, if he doesn't think that Darnold's the guy after having built some stuff up around him, then he'll probably change him out too. The Jets aren't going to be an easy, or relegate him to backup duty, are going to be an easy out, but 10 wins feels like their ceiling. Okay. Yeah, that's probably right. That's probably their ceiling. I don't know that they'll get to 10, but that's probably their ceiling. And for that to be good enough to win the AFC East, the front runner will have to stumble. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case. The front runner. Those front runners are the Buffalo Bills, the same team that has been to the playoffs only twice in the 21st century. Of course, those 2 postseason trips have come in the past 3 seasons, including last year's 10-win campaign and wild card berth. Via the Buffalo News, Bills general manager Brandon Beane said Buffalo is ready to take the next step. Our fan base is so fired up, Beane said on SportsCenter. It's the best I've ever been around and best I've seen. Everybody in the league knows how rabid the Bills Mafia is. That's our goal. We want to win the AFC East so we can host a home playoff game. We got in the playoffs last year, but we ran into a tough team in Houston. Beane also pointed out that the Patriots are the defending champs, off-season losses or not. You guys are all playing right into Bill Belichick's hands, he said. I can promise you in Orchard Park, we know that they are the champions, and until someone knocks them off, they're still the team to beat. Well, this is the year the Bills will likely do just that. I absolutely agree. Buffalo might not have the gaudy array of firepower or reigning MVP quarterback that the Kansas City Chiefs or Baltimore Ravens have, but the Bills aren't that far off. I mean, but they don't compete with those guys in the division, so it's irrelevant to the talk of who's going to take over the division. Now, if you want to talk about how far they'll end up going through the playoffs and so on and so forth, okay. But for this conversation, not totally relevant. Quarterback Josh Allen made strides as a passer last year and rushed for over 500 yards. The Bills ranked 8th in the league in rushing and added a talented young back in the draft in Utah's Zach Moss. Buffalo's trade for Pro Bowl wideout Stephon Diggs gave Allen the go-to receiver he has lacked. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to be pretty lethal actually next year. Also, last year's third-ranked defense will return relatively intact, and in the one area it won't, the team may have actually gotten better. Edge rusher Shaq Lawson bolted from Miami in free agency, and veteran Mario Addison is a more proven option. And the Bills added a player many considered a first-round prospect, defensive lineman A.J. Epineza of Iowa on day 2 of the draft. And I think that's an absolute steal. And I said it before, I predicted it. If you go back and watch my draft day video, my day 2 video, my live stream, I was like, you know what? I bet you the Bills are going to take A.J. Epineza to replace Shaq Lawson. And lo and behold, they did. And part of the reason why I feel like Shaq Lawson was overpaid when he came to Miami. And look, I told you guys this was going to happen. They were going to have to overpay guys in free agency to get him to go down to Miami to play on this team because of how things were last year, right? Anyway, so, but part of the reason is because, you know, he's never had 10 sacks and that Bills defense was good. Right? He wasn't the only good player. They're pretty stacked with good players. And so he had other, but even despite that, he couldn't, break 10 sacks or anything like that. So I think A.J. Epineza has the potential to be better than, from what I've seen from the reports on the kid, has the potential to be better, especially in that unit. And so I think that they probably did likely upgrade, and we, chased the bait, man, and we overpaid for the guy. That is Lawson. The Bills don't have any glaring weaknesses. Buffalo is easily the most balanced team in the AFC East, especially after the addition of Diggs juiced up the passing game. In fact, you can make a compelling argument that only the Chiefs and Ravens have better rosters in the AFC. The division is the Bills to lose in 2020, and if that doesn't tell you how drastically things have changed in the AFC East, nothing will. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It really is. But that's how it goes. And look, again, to be fair, just a couple things. One, I hope that they prove me wrong. I hope that they turn this around. I hope that they become successful here in the near future. I hope they become competitive in the division, etc., etc., etc. I personally don't see it. But look, I do think that the Jets and the Bills have a leg up on us. They've settled into, their quarterbacks. They're building, full rosters. Like they said, I think the Bills have one of the most balanced rosters probably in the AFC, period, the whole conference, if not the entire league. The Jets are going to be taking a more, not necessarily conservative approach, but Adam Gase has said he doesn't like the big offseason free agent signings. He wants to draft right, build through the draft, and then pay the guys in-house that perform. I think that he's going to take that philosophy. I think he's going to help turn the Jets around, having, significant control there now, and having a good solid first draft under his belt. And then the Patriots are still going to hang around for a little while, and we'll have to wait and see if the Dolphins' decisions pan out or not. But I think that, if Stephen Ross wasn't a fucking craven, desperate moron and, thinks that the way to win in this league is just to throw unlimited resources at the problem, just throw resources at it and chase quarterbacks, or fucking, all you have to do is get the quarterback. If he thinks those philosophies are going to work, be big spenders in free agency, etc., 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 well, prove it. Hashtag fucking prove it. And I hope so, but we'll have to wait and see. I thought that they were a lot better poised to take over the division after the Patriots with what they were building under Adam Gase. Obviously, the vast majority of Dolphins fans disagree. Well, let's see. Let's see how the Jets do over the next few years. Let's see how the Dolphins do over the next few years. If the Jets do end up moving up the board, if it ends up eventually being the Bills at the top with the Jets behind them, Patriots at third, and Dolphins buried in the basement after, this year and next year goes wrong for whatever reason, and then Brian Flores gets scapegoated, well, then I'll be right. Or Brian Flores and Chris Greer, if they get scapegoated and fired, then I'll be right. Or if the Dolphins end up being up in, the top half of the division, fighting for first or second place, and have a well-rounded team with a star quarterback and blah, 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 and they're getting to the playoffs and fighting for championships, okay, then I will be wrong, and I will be happy to admit that. I will be overjoyed and ecstatic to admit that. But not until it gets there. I care about facts, I care about data, I care about truth and reality. So whichever one of those ends up being is the narrative that I will give, because that will be what is real. And I will not give you guys anything other than that. So with that, I'm going to get up out of here. I hope you guys enjoy my videos and perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And of course, as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Phins up.